Gordon, you've written this book, Fight Like a Man, 1996, but I think it's still selling. Tell us about this book, because it's got a very interesting title, Fight Like a Man.
Yeah, I remember once I was I heard a music song one time by a group called Petra, a Christian rock band, and they said, "Get on your knees and fight like a man," was the title thing. I started, something just welled up in my spirit, like there was a pain, and the reaction was so overwhelming, I had to deal with it. I said, what is causing that in me? And I realized that so much of my old history, from the peace and love hippie days, don't be violent, don't fight, because that's mean and nasty. Really, there are things to fight for. You can fight for your marriage and for your child, and there's lots of things we need to fight for in this world. And the whole process of my growing into my masculinity and fighting for my wife, for example. I have a chapter in there, what does it mean, the woman as ally? To fight for the woman instead of against the woman. What does that mean? I never knew what that looked like or what would be like as a man. And I realized that I had discounted the whole idea of fighting as a man, and that's not discounting all my manhood as well. And because I began to discover that in my first book, Healing the Masculine Soul, that there was a real strength that God gives to men that is good, that builds up people and encourages people, that I had neglected and needed to re-embrace. Out of that, I realized the reason we don't have it is because we haven't been fathered for generations. So that led to sons of the Father. Then I began to realize that the main effect of not being fathered is that shame. That I don't measure up. It's like a bowling ball in your gut. It's like a burning sensation. Like, I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. And so the next thing we get out of the masculine culture is, well, you just got to perform more. You got to try harder. You got to do more, sell more contracts, do more legal things here, get more clients or something here, or work harder as a husband, or work harder. And we burn out and become angry and stuff like that. So I begin to realize, well, how do we deal with that shame, that fact that I don't measure up? And from my perspective as a Christian, it was frankly both difficult but relieving to discover that I don't measure up. That there's something in me that is broken unto death that doesn't allow me to measure up. In a Christian vocabulary, we call it sin. It's really what it means is a disconnectedness from the source of life. Yeah. And such that I pull into myself, and that's all I see is me. And I'm disconnected with the source and power of life. And so I began to realize that the shame that I felt like that, the only way to overcome that shame is, well, what do I do when I don't measure up? Well, one voice says, try harder. Show you can measure up. You're better, you can try harder. And I'm dead tired, burned out. The other voice says, are you ready to get real? There's a wonderful story. I heard a guy say one time about this very righteous guy who dies and goes to heaven. And he's in line, St. Peter's at the gate. And finally his time comes up and St. Peter's, well, welcome. He said, and the guy says, you know I'd be coming, didn't you? He said, oh, I did, because you're a righteous Christian guy. You tithe your money, you work at the church. We need to be coming. So if you just give us the password, you're in. Password to heaven? You're going to church all your life. Surely, come on, guys are waiting. Give me the password to heaven. The guy said, password to heaven? It must be something religious. For thine is the kingdom. And St. Peter goes, oy vey. He said, you're so close. Come on, you know the password to heaven. You're a religious guy. Come on. The Lord is my shepherd. Oh, guys, look, come on, guys are waiting to get in. Just give me the password and you're in. And the guy thinks, it's got to be something religious, maybe it's got to be something from the Bible. He says, finally, the guy says, all right, St. Peter, I give up. And St. Peter says, at last, come on in, brother. See, this I never learned in church growing up. Spirituality begins with surrender. The first chapter in that book, the first chapter, Fight Like a Man, is first we surrender. We give up to the source of life and confess the truth to get real with the God who created us all and says, I haven't got it in me.
You know something, Gordon, I don't know if you grew up in the 60s, you probably listened to Bob Dylan a bit, I'm sure.
A bit, yes.
And Bob Dylan's got a song, and just playing that song to one of my friends here, just on the drive up to meet you today. And the song says, shine your light on me, shine your light on me. I just can't make it by myself. I'm a little too blind to see.
Oh, yeah. See, everybody knows it's true. I mean, it's just truth, okay? The question that I believe God asks is, how long is it going to take? We're busy. How long is it going to take for you to give me what I need? I've asked this prayer, and I pray this. How long is it? And God's just looking at his watch saying, how long is it going to take for you just to give up? And say, I haven't got what it takes. So I'm going to take a chance on you, Father God, to give me what I desperately need. And the rest, as we say, is history.
Indeed, it really fits in with the whole idea of entering into God's rest, I believe. As we give up, we have to allow someone far greater than us to do what we cannot do ourselves. If I can say this to you, Gordon, in my journey with the Dads for Kids Fatherhood Foundation, in many ways I know the principles I'm telling these guys to love their wife and spend time with their children and to put their children first and to put what their wife wants first and not to think so much about sex that they just, that's all they can think about. For many men, it's impossible. And for me, it certainly has been impossible at times. But something, it's when I look up and I say, I can't do this without you. Just like Bob Dylan says, shine your light on me, because I just can't make it by myself. I'm a little too blind to see.
Yeah, my wife Mary is a writer. She has her book is called The Rest of Your Life, Finding God's Rest in a Driven, Demanding World. And she has a line which is great. She says, true rest is not about what we don't do. Take a day off. True rest is not about what we don't do, but what God does do. When you know your Father's with you, and that's what Jesus is all about. God, who knows we can't make it by ourselves, so sends us the help we need, if we'll just get humble enough and go to him as sons. That it's out of that humility that and it's the only way to discover the power of God is when you give up and let God. John Wimber, the founder of the Vineyard Churches in the U.S., used to say, what the big change for him was when God said to him, I've seen your ministry, John, now I want to show you mine. And what does it take for a man to say, I want to know what God has for me? Well, run as long as you can, And that's what Fight Like a Man is all about. It's about how it's overcoming racism, overcoming addictions, all kinds of things like that by surrendering and discovering what God can do. Gordon, thank you so much for talking to us today, and I believe this book has obviously helped a lot of men. It's going to help a lot more men, and we just want to say thank you for your time with us because we really appreciate it. It's been great being with you.